Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today we're going to do a quick little video on the yellow tea. So we recently did a video where I kind of updated you guys on what I've been doing, helping Spencer get this car closer to being an actual car and not just a pile of parts. And we got a lot of really great feedback in the video if you guys are interested to see some more videos and updates on the car. So what we're going to do tonight is actually work on installing the engine in the car. So for you guys that are new to the channel, a while ago, it's probably been close to a year now, we did a video on an auction that I went to where there was a 32 Ford 5-window coupe barn find, and then there was a lot of parts. At that auction, I was able to purchase a bunch of stuff, but two of the things that I purchased was I got two little 8BA flatheads that used to be in a natural gas driven generators, which is pretty cool. And I sold one of those off to one of the viewers actually that was watching the channel. Hit me up, he needed one for a project, and after Hershey he came and picked that up. I saved one for myself, and we've decided to use it in this car. So we're gonna grab a 39 Trans that I have, that 8BA out of the corner, and we're gonna put the two of them together and we're gonna get them mocked up in the car. What we're gonna try and do is, number one, we're gonna tune the spring pack. Right now we just have one or two leaves in there just to hold the car up, but with all that extra weight, it's gonna flatten out the spring pack. So we need to add leaves so that the car will actually have some suspension travel. We're also gonna work on just kind of locating the engine and trans and just getting it roughly where it needs to be. We're not gonna be doing engine mounts tonight, but we're gonna just kind of get it in there for weight, eyeball everything, make sure that we like the height that the engine is and all that, just really preliminary stuff before we actually lock the engine in. So we'll show you guys along the way. We're gonna just kind of leave the camera running a bunch so you guys can hear our discussion and how I go about setting these things up and just the way that I like things to look. So let's get started. All right, so we got the engine sitting in, and we're trying to figure out how we want the engine to sit in here. So what I have is I have a bar that I always set when I first set an engine in. I just put a piece of round stock or square bar, and I set it down and let it sit on either the water pump outlets or on the crank pulley itself, and it goes across to the top of the frame. That's just to get the engine in and somewhat close to where we want it, and then at least we can take the weight off, see how the car sits, go from there. So Spencer, do you want the engine sitting lower or higher, or what are you envisioning?
Well, I'm kind of envisioning where the Pagoda Coupe's engine is. So
well, that engine I have sitting pretty high because I wanted the scoops to sit above the cow.
Yep.
So if you're looking for that look, it will give you more pan clearance, but it'll set your stacks above the cow. So if you ever want to run a hood, you'd have to cut holes in it. Like the height it's at now is pretty good because you could run an intake with scoops and it'd probably still be like right at the top. If we raise the engine more, you're gonna have them sitting definitely above.
All right. So it's I mean, initially it's gonna be running without a hood.
Yeah, and you got pretty good clearance. I'd say, I don't know what you got there for the oil pan, 10 inches or so.
Yeah.
I would say. So that's pretty good clearance under the car. So I think...
What would the carb and the stack add?
So your carb's going to probably sit here. And if you put a stack, it's going to be right, like where we're at now, you're almost going to be level with it, sitting like that. You can't put a big stack on it. Yeah, mine's probably fairly similar. Mine might even sit a little lower, but I have that high rise intake.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
we could drop it a little bit lower if we adjust it, and that might be a nice in-between point.
yeah.
I think we could drop it a little lower. Just gotta find a different place to hang the bar from, and that'll allow you to give you a little more room to run a hood. Okay, let's drop it a little lower, and then we'll kind of set a carb on it and see what we think.
All right.
All right, so what we're gonna do is use a shorter piece of bar stock here that we can put underneath the engine mount. This is a flathead style biscuit mount. So basically when I like making my engine mount brackets basically so they weld flush with the top of the frame rail. I think it looks the best. So with this bar stock, if we put it at the bottom, it almost stacks up to be the same height as a biscuit mount. Now this is a brand new one, so it hasn't been compressed, but we can add a couple of washers underneath. But what this allows us to do is we'll C-clamp it here and put it underneath of the engine mount, like this. And then we'll lower the engine down till we like the height, and we'll shim it from there, and it can hang without using this piece under the bracket. So we'll clamp that in on both sides, and then we'll drop it down some more.
All right.
I'll take the pressure off, or add the weight. Let's see if we can slide that bar out soon. Oop. Now we may want to put some spacers under there. You know what happens here. Not too
You need
bad.
to come your way. Looks like by the center line here, you need to come your way just a tiny bit, but not much.
Let me get well, yours is touching, isn't it?
Yeah, mine's sitting on it.
Okay, well it's gonna move my way as it rocks down. There we go. All right.
We're gonna need more springs.
What's that?
So I think we need more springs.
Probably.
It's flattened out, please.
All right. Okay, so we got the weight basically off of the. There's barely any weight on the frame or on the engine, but what you can see here is now with all this weight on here, we only had like 2 or 3 leaves on, and with all the weight on, it's actually flattening out the leaves because it's just too much weight. We're going to bottom the springs out and basically have 0 travel. So what we need to do now is kind of tune it with the weight with extra leaves. So I usually start with a main leaf or 2 or 3 main leaves, and then I start stacking them up as we go till we get where it's suspending itself well, and you can get the ride height how you want. So we're gonna jack this up, take the weight off the springs. We have a little spacer that we put in here to take up the distance of the spring pack because we knew we were gonna have to add some, so we put that spacer in. So now we should be able to take the spacer out and add some leaves. I'm trying to take the weight off. That looks like it's mostly off.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, if you loosen them by hand. I'm gonna have to take a foot more anyways. Just, if you leave that one attached, you can probably swing it out.
Yeah.
Push down on those springs and no, okay. There we go. Here, I'm gonna hand you these. Leave that topmost one out.
This one?
Yeah. Alright, see if you can slide those in. I don't want to go too high because we're gonna have a risk of the engine sliding back. How many more do you got?
Got 2 more.
Alright, is that the last one?
Yep.
valve. Alright, that should be all. Pretty tight. That's a little better. Oh. Alright, so we'll put a carb on with a little scoop type thing. Let's see here, just
a tiny bit above.
Just tiny bit above. And now this is just a random scoop I have from an old horn. But you can make it a little bit lower and it would probably just sit. So I think that's probably about the height you want it to sit at.
Yeah.
With the stack up on it, so it'll be right around the height of the hood. Cool. You can take the grill off the wall, if I can get it. Take the wood block with it.
That's just a little lower.
That's it. Is that higher than your cow mount?
Just about the same height.
And oh yeah, that's it.
It's setting it
That's
with
about it.
the grill sitting there. Fit a radiator.
Yep, you got plenty of room for a radiator. The front chin of the grill isn't that much lower than the axle, so you won't have to worry about like smashing it on
Smashing it
anything.
up. Yeah, Kyle, I'm digging that bucket.
Yeah, it looks cool. Channeled down over the frame just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's probably like I think that's like a 5-inch channel, so you take away 2 inches, so it's a 3, you probably need to channel a grill 3 inches. Yeah, oh yeah, this is the angle back here. All right, so we got got everything set up. We put a grill on just to kind of get an idea. Whenever I do these, I always set a grill on to kind of get an idea of the lines of the car. And you can see we spaced the grill up a little bit. This tan grill is one I've been using for mock-ups for years. I had it on the Pagoda City Coupe for quite a while, and it's actually channeled to the Pagoda City Coupe, which is about 5 inches, so we spaced it up just a little bit. And if you look at the side view of the car here, the grill, I got my bench blocking it a little bit, but the grill is just about level, if not just a tiny bit down with the cowl, so that's about where you want it. If you look down at the oil pan level here, trying to get this there, we're not much lower than the wishbones, but we got plenty of ground clearance. I'll walk up here so you guys can see down low, but we have, tons of clearance there. There's probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches of clearance under the oil pan, which is really great. As we mentioned when you heard us talk about setting this all up, the carb is just below the top of the cowl, so Spencer has a little bit of room to put a little stack or a filter on there. When we were setting it up, we realized the body was just a little bit back, so when we put the body in its home, one problem we're going to have is just the oil fill / breather that's on the back there. We may have to notch the firewall a little bit for that, or kind of modify the breather, which we could do also. We have the technology. But the engine fits pretty good. You can see we have plenty of space here between the front pulley and the cross member. Plenty of space between the fan and the radiator, so we can fit a radiator in here. Spencer's going to do an aluminum, just a cheap aluminum radiator, and paint it black. He's on a budget here, and he's not as crazy about the period correct stuff as I am. No sane person probably is. But so he's going to run an aluminum radiator, which is pretty cheap. That'll fit right in there. We'll paint it black. And you can see the engine mounts. We got them just clamped in on those bars there. The engine's probably going to go up just a hair from where it is here, because the 1-inch box tubing is just a little bit thinner than what the engine mount, the biscuit mounts are. So it'll probably sit just a hair higher than this. but you can see even the exhaust is sitting at a nice height. Even with these stock exhaust manifolds, you could technically run them if you wanted with the APA, but yeah, it's sitting pretty good. Pretty happy with it. So now that it's kind of sitting in place, oh yeah, also back here on the trans mount, we just used a piece of box tubing that fits inside the frame like that, and we just clamped the ears of the trans mount right to it. So everything's clamped in place. Now we can put it on some dollies and actually move the thing around. But it has a nice look to it. This is a good kind of jalopy racer, kind of everyday teenage hot rodders build. Has that look to it. It's not super low, but it's got a nice rake to it. A little flat tire here. This is a 616. So with the flat tire, we're thinking it's going to simulate a 550, which is what he wants to run on the front. The back, I think, is that 750 or 7? I think it's 750 in the rear.
Yeah, 750s.
Yeah, so 750 in the rear, which is about correct, and then the front with the flat tire is about like a 550. So this will probably be about the ride height and stance that we were going for with the car. So looking pretty good. All right, so that was a quick little update on the Yellow T. We got the engine all mounted. I showed you all the detail shots of how we kind of did everything. And this is just the first mock-up. For anybody that's going to scream in the comments, this isn't done. This is kind of how I usually like to do them. I will get the engine in, get everything sitting how we want, and that we can roll it around on dollies, and the suspension loaded so we can make sure that we like the ride height with some actual weight in the car. And then I'll usually let it simmer for a week or so. I'll just stare at the car, make sure I like how the engine sits, how the car sits, and then we can adjust it from here. So next time we're going to work on is getting the front engine mounts made in place. We have them sitting somewhere here. Oh yeah. Yeah, the engine mounts, I just made these out of some 1/8" steel. I made one, and the other one Spencer made up tonight. So we have 2 of these. We're going to mount these to the frame. They're already drilled for the biscuit mounts to fit through. So basically what we can do is get the engine centered. We're going to have to pull the body on and off a couple of times. Get that centered, then we can get these in place tacked, put biscuit mounts on it, bolt them to the engine, and then the front will be hanging on its own and won't be as precarious as it is right now. Then what I usually do is work on making trans mounts from there. But getting these front mounts in are huge because it'll get the engine kind of centered where it needs to be. So that's a little update on the Yellow T. It's starting to look like a car, which is pretty exciting. And this is a nice change of pace for me working on the free T, where all I'm doing is cleaning and painting parts. So kind of fun to do this for an evening. So thanks guys for watching. We do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. If you haven't subscribed, definitely hit the subscribe button. We appreciate all you guys that are following along on the build, and let us know what you think of the ride height of the Yellow T. Thanks guys, catch you later.